At its peak, the Roman Empire operated as a centralized superpower. Its citizens relied on a network of complex infrastructure and the protection of professional standing armies. When the Western Empire collapsed in 476 CE, that entire support system vanished. The sudden absence of imperial authority stripped the continent of its military and economic foundations. This map illustrates the immediate fallout: a single, unified territory splintering into thousands of localized, disconnected, and deeply impoverished barbarian kingdoms. Popular history often dismisses the ensuing millennium as a stagnant, dark age of ignorance, but the historical record suggests a much more volatile reality. Europe became a geopolitical pressure cooker. The constant barrage of plagues, famine, and ruthless invasions acted as harsh catalysts, forcing local populations to reinvent their survival from the ground up. By the 9th century, survival was again in question. Terrorizing raids assaulted the Western world from all sides: Vikings from the north, Magyars from the east, and Muslim raiders from the south. To survive without a central army, Europeans developed feudalism. This diagram shows the trade involved. A king granted land to local lords, and in exchange, those lords provided military service. This relied on a new military standard, the stirrup. This innovation established the knight as the dominant battlefield force. Because these professional fighters were expensive to equip, military power became the exclusive domain of the local nobility. This localized military supremacy left its mark on the physical landscape. Europe became a network of fortified stone castles, serving as both defensive bastions and the seats of power from which lords controlled the local peasantry. Around the year 1000, these defenses finally stabilized the borders. As invasions ceased and the climate warmed, the continent entered a period of relative security. This stability triggered an agricultural revolution. With new farming techniques and cleared forests, food production rose, fueling a massive population boom and the growth of bustling new cities. Economic growth was matched by ideological centralization. The Catholic Church consolidated into a robust, continent-spanning organization, the papal monarchy, with its own administrative and legal reach. By decentralizing power to survive, Europeans created a highly militarized, localized grid. This structure provided the necessary security and wealth for the continent's eventual cultural rebirth. In 1347, exactly as this expansion reached its peak, the global plague known as the Black Death reached European shores. This chart captures the disaster. Within a few years, the population dropped by 1/3. Entire settlements vanished. Yet for survivors, the economic reality shifted. With laborers scarce and land abundant, peasants held more bargaining power than ever before. As wages rose, the high cost of manual labor drove a search for mechanical alternatives. This fueled a surge in watermill technology and metallurgy, and eventually, the demand for a faster way to replicate texts led to the invention of the printing press. The most devastating demographic crisis in European history became the catalyst that broke feudal subjugation and provided the wealth that financed the Renaissance. During the 14th and 15th centuries, one final technological shift arrived to dismantle the old order: gunpowder. This technology rendered the two pillars of feudalism obsolete. A simple infantryman could now take down a knight from a distance, and heavy cannons could breach even the strongest stone fortifications. Because artillery and standing infantry were prohibitively expensive, only centralized kings could afford them. This allowed monarchs to monopolize force and reclaim authority from the local lords. This concentration of power provided the institutional framework for the modern, unified sovereign states of England, France, and Spain. In 500 CE, Europe was a fractured, depopulated ruin. By 1500 CE, the continent stood as a consolidated, technologically advanced, and heavily armed power. With its internal foundations rebuilt, Europe shifted its gaze outward. Heavily armed ships began opening commercial routes across the oceans to Africa, the Far East, and the Americas. The voyages of 1492 were the deployment of the military, technological, and political adaptations hard-won over the previous 1,000 years. Modernity arrived on the back of the brutal, violent adaptations forged during these previous 10 centuries. The Middle Ages were not a delay, they were the process that built the modern world.